Silas Ward stood frozen on the dusty trail leading to his inherited ranch, staring at 7 women on the porch, each clutching an identical photograph of his face. He'd never seen them before, yet their eyes held a strange familiarity, as if they'd been waiting for him for years. The oldest, with silver hair braided tightly down her back, stepped forward, her smile warm but heavy with expectation. "You're late, Silas," she said, her voice carrying the weight of someone who'd waited too long. The younger women whispered among themselves, glancing between him and the photographs, their fingers tracing his features in the images. Silas dismounted his horse, his mind reeling. He'd inherited this ranch from a grandfather he barely remembered, a man who'd left him nothing but vague childhood memories and a lawyer's letter claiming the property had been abandoned for decades. But the ranch before him was anything but abandoned. Smoke curled from the chimney, clean laundry fluttered on a line, and the house gleamed with care. These women had been living here, tending his land, waiting for him with pictures they shouldn't have. "Ma'am, there's a mistake," Silas said, his voice unsteady. "I just inherited this place. I've never been here before, and I don't know how you have those photographs." The silver-haired woman's smile faded, replaced by a look of pity. "No mistake, child. Your grandfather said you'd say that. He said you wouldn't remember, not at first, but you'd understand in time." The other women nodded, closing in, their photographs still in hand. One woman, with auburn hair and sharp green eyes, held up her picture, comparing it to Silas's face. The resemblance was uncanny, too precise for an old image. These were recent, clear photographs, showing him as he looked now, not as a child. Someone had given these women current images of him, someone who knew he'd come. Silas's stomach churned. "Who gave you those?" he asked, but the auburn-haired woman cut him off. "You look like him, but that doesn't mean you're him," she said, her voice sharp with suspicion. "Anyone could ride up claiming to own this place." The silver-haired woman raised a hand. "Clarabelle, enough. He's just arrived." She turned to Silas. "Your grandfather called me Maggie. He said when you came, I should tell you about the night he made his promise, the night he said his grandson would finish what he couldn't." Silas's head spun. "What promise? What was my grandfather involved in?" The youngest woman, barely past 20, stepped forward nervously. "Ma'am, maybe we should show him the room first, help him understand." Clarabelle's eyes narrowed. "Mercy, we agreed to wait until we're sure. What if this is a trick?" Her suspicion seemed rooted in fear, as if she guarded something precious. Maggie considered this, then spoke softly. "Your grandfather said you'd be confused, Silas. He said you'd need time to understand what you've inherited. But time is something we don't have much of anymore." Clarabelle crossed her arms. "If you're really him, you'd know about the letters. Your grandfather said you'd bring them." Silas's heart sank. "Letters? I only have the deed and some papers from the lawyer." He pulled the documents from his saddlebag, but Clarabelle dismissed them with a shake of her head. Maggie's voice softened. "He said the lawyers might hold on to important things longer than they should." Her words hinted at knowledge beyond what a ranch woman should possess. Silas studied the women. Their clothes were simple but well made, their hands calloused from work, yet their speech suggested education. Something was off. 7 women, 7 photographs, 7 pairs of eyes that knew more about him than he did himself. Inside the ranch house, the sight hit Silas like a blow. Every surface was covered with photographs of him, childhood, adolescence, now. Some showed him in places he'd never been, wearing clothes he'd never owned, standing beside strangers. His hands trembled as he picked up a picture of himself as a boy, standing with his grandfather outside this house. "I've never been here," he whispered, but doubt crept in. Maggie watched him. "Your grandfather brought you here many times when you were young. A fever took those memories when you were 12. He said it was for the best, given what happened that last summer." The women formed a semicircle around him, their faces reflecting shared secrets. Clarabelle opened a wooden chest, revealing more photographs, documents, and a small boy's hat. "This was yours," she said, holding it up. "You lost it the day your grandfather sent you away for good." Silas's world tilted. He remembered the fever, weeks of delirium, and his parents' vague mentions of lost memories. But visits to a ranch? These women? Mercy handed him a leather journal. "Your grandfather wrote everything. About you, us, his promises. He said you'd need it when you were ready for the responsibility." Clarabelle snatched the journal back. "Not yet. We need proof beyond photographs and a familiar face." Maggie retrieved a small wooden box from the fireplace, revealing a child's drawing of the ranch house with 7 stick figures. At the bottom, in shaky handwriting, were the words, "My friends at Grandpa's house." The drawing stirred something in Silas, a fleeting memory of holding a pencil, but it slipped away. "The last time you were here," Maggie said, "you promised you'd come back to take care of us, like your grandfather did." Silas's voice hardened. "What happened to your husbands?" The room fell silent, faces darkening. Clarabelle's jaw tightened. "Not a story for tonight," she said, but her tone promised it would come. Hoofbeats shattered the silence. The women tensed, moving to extinguish lamps and secure doors. Maggie grabbed Silas's arm. "They're early," she whispered, fear lacing her voice. Clarabelle grabbed a rifle, her movements practiced. "How many?" she asked. 3 riders, Mercy reported, peering through the curtains. "Same ones as last month." Silas was lost. "Who are they?" "Land speculators," Maggie said through gritted teeth. "They want this ranch and think 7 women alone can't hold it." The leader's voice called out, rough and confident. "Ladies, we know you're in there. Got papers to discuss." Another voice added, "Heard someone inherited this place. Introduce us to your new friend." The women exchanged glances. Somehow, these men knew about Silas's arrival. Maggie ushered them toward the back. "The kind of papers that don't matter if you can't enforce them," Clarabelle muttered, checking the rifle. The banging on the door grew louder, spurs jangling as the men circled the house. Silas peered outside, seeing 3 hard men with guns and the confidence of predators. "We can do this easy or hard," the leader called. "But we're not leaving empty-handed." Clarabelle's hands trembled slightly. "1 rifle against 3 guns," she whispered. "Bad odds." A window shattered at the back. 1 man had broken in. The women grabbed makeshift weapons, but Silas knew this would end badly without a change. "Stay here," he said, moving to the door before Clarabelle could stop him. He stepped onto the porch, facing the 2 men outside. The leader, scarred and graying, studied him. "The heir apparent," he said, smirking. "Thought you'd stay away." "This is my property," Silas said, forcing calm. "You're trespassing." The younger man laughed. "You don't know what you've inherited, boy, or what it'll cost you." The 3rd man emerged from the house, holding a leather satchel. "Found it under some quilts," he said. The women paled. The leader pulled out papers, deeds, contracts, unfiled transfers. "Your grandfather was clever," he said. "Trying to give this land to 7 women with no legal claim." Mercy protested, "Those are legitimate. He gave us this land for taking care of him." The leader sneered. "Services rendered, huh? 7 women, 1 old man, no questions asked." Clarabelle raised her rifle. "Watch your mouth." The leader offered a deal: they'd take the ranch, pay the women to leave, or expose their secret, 7 husbands dead in a month. As they rode off, giving 3 days to decide, Silas turned to the women. 7 husbands, he said. "That's no coincidence." Maggie sat heavily. "Your grandfather saved us from men who hurt us instead of protecting us." One by one, they shared stories of abuse, broken bones, sold children, violence. His grandfather had offered them freedom through a staged mine collapse, making their husbands' deaths look accidental. Now, the speculators knew and were using it to extort the land. Silas spent the night reading his grandfather's papers, finding a letter and hidden documents. His grandfather had foreseen this, transferring the ranch to Silas years ago via federal records, untouchable by territorial courts. He'd also planted evidence suggesting the husbands died stealing gold, not in an accident. When the men returned, Silas met them alone, holding the portfolio. "This ranch is mine, legally transferred 5 years ago," he said, showing the deed. "And the marshal's interested in new evidence about that mine collapse, stolen gold, weakened supports. The women know where it's hidden." Clarabelle stepped out, smiling coldly. "We'll show the marshal, for the reward." The leader's confidence crumbled. Silas pressed, "I'll file a report, and the marshal will want to talk to you three." Defeated, the men rode off. Maggie joined Silas. "Your grandfather would be proud. You protected us without becoming like them." Silas looked over the ranch, now his sanctuary for 7 women who'd chosen survival. His grandfather had known he'd return, driven by a sense of justice. The promises of a child would be honored by the man, and the ranch would remain a haven for those who needed it.